Hey guys, it's Keegan. Welcome to a very special Scorpio reading. I am just going to say here at the top, this reading itself is based on another video that I just posted. That video is about the 3 stages of Scorpio evolution. So if you've not seen that video yet, you might want to go check it out because this reading is based very heavily on the content that I talked about in that video. So I will put a link up right here or right here. I'm never able to distinguish which side it is. I want to say it's this side. But yeah, I will put a link up to that video. I'll also put the link to the video in the description box below in case it makes it easier for you, or you can just go into my videos and look for the video that was posted immediately before this reading that is about Scorpio evolution. This reading is going to be really heavily influenced by the content that I talk about there. You don't have to watch that video in order to appreciate the reading, but it will help you understand what I'm talking about and to get a deeper appreciation of the cards. I'm not going to really talk very much here at the beginning about the reading itself. I'm just going to say hello to you guys. It's good to see you again. I feel like it's been a while since we've hung out. It's been a while since I've sat down to do a reading. I got swamped at the beginning of the year with requests for personal readings. I am caught up for the most part with that. I have a few that I need to wrap up this weekend. I do just want to say here, if you are interested in getting a personal reading with me, you can send me an email, KeaghanTarot@gmail.com, and I can give you all the details about that. I'm hoping within the next couple of months to be able to get a website done so that purchasing personal readings with me will be a little bit easier. And the only other thing I want to say is I am going to do a separate video. I'm probably going to film that tomorrow, so that would be Friday, and try to get it up over the weekend. I just want to do a channel update with you guys and just a personal update, let you guys know what's going on with me and how I've been, and just sort of have a chit chat and put that video up for you guys, because several of you have just been asking, what's going on with the channel, what's going on with me, what's, any news. And there are some big announcements that I want to make for you guys. If you are a subscriber and you have access to the community tab here on the channel, then you already know part of what's going on, but I want to just make a video for everybody so that they can see. So I'm going to go ahead and just switch you guys over. It'll be like typical. I'll just do the overhead camera and you guys will see the reading that is going to unfold. I hope that you enjoyed this. I'll probably pop back on after the reading just to say goodbye to you guys. But in case I don't do that, in case the reading just ends with it overhead, I'll go ahead and say bye now just in case. Alright guys, so as I explained, this reading that I'm about to do is based on another video that I just posted, which is about the evolution of Scorpio. So if you haven't seen that particular video, you might want to head over and watch it first. If you want to just watch this reading through, you probably could, but you're not going to get the same level of understanding or insight from it that you will if you watch the other video first. So I've pre-shuffled all of these decks. For each of the spreads, I'm going to be using this oracle deck to pull one oracle card, and then I'll use one of these decks for each of the 3 phases of Scorpio evolution to get insight. So I'm going to leave these 2 here and move these 2 off to the side just to get them out of the way. I'll decide which one of those I'm going to use. I'm going to turn on an overlay here so you can see what I'm going to take a look at. So again, I do recommend going over to watch the video that I posted about the 3 phases of Scorpio evolution, because once you watch that and you hear how I talk about it, you can then decide how you want to utilize this reading. I'm going to do a spread for each of the 3, so a Scorpion, an Eagle, and a Phoenix reading. For some of you, you might feel like you know very clearly which phase you're in. Others of you might feel like you're in between phases or you're bouncing back and forth between phases, and that's fine. As I talk about in the reading, I don't personally view this as being like bad, better, best. I just see it as being 3 distinct phases that Scorpios can exist within. So you need to know which of these phases you feel you are currently in, or that you struggle with, or you want to move into, however you want to frame it. Then you can know whether you need to watch just one of the readings. If you want to watch all 3, that's totally up to you. But I do just recommend going to watch that other video first, so you'll have the insight into how this spread came to be. So I'm going to give this oracle deck a shuffle, just so you guys can hear and see that. I'll give it a cut as well. Let me just take the card from the bottom of the deck. It's going to be just some overall insight and information from that card. Then I'm going to take my Mystic Monday deck. I'll do a shuffle for you guys so that you can hear that. I'm going to do 3 cuts. 1. There's the second one. And then after this third cut, whatever ends up being the top section, I'm just going to pull 5 cards right off the top. And that's how I will do each of these different readings. Okay. So as you can see, each of these cards is going to have a specific meaning. So we're going to have the spiritual purpose of, for you, the person listening to me, we'll look at the spiritual purpose of you being in the Scorpion phase, or however you're looking at this, but this is specific to the Scorpion phase. So we're going to look at the spiritual purpose, your soul's lessons, any karmic ties that are associated with this phase, advice and guidance, and then evolutionary insight. Okay, insight into the evolution process. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip all these cards over. I want to be able to see everything all at once, and then I'll walk you guys through it. So for this card, we have the presence of love will always cast out fear. We have the 2 of Cups coming out reversed here for spiritual purpose. Ooh, this is going to be heavy. The Lovers coming out reversed for your soul's lesson. Karmic ties, we have the Chariot coming out upright. Advice and guidance, we have the 7 of Pentacles. This is very interesting. I was excited to do this. In Evolution Insight, we have the 2 of Pentacles. This is very interesting to me, and I was super excited to do this reading after I came up with the idea for the video itself, which was, much more just content-based and not necessarily an actual tarot reading. I wanted to do a tarot reading that just goes along with it, because I think that this concept and the evolution of the sign of Scorpio, I personally, as a Scorpio, find that entire process really fascinating. And I wanted to do spreads that could maybe give some insight and just see how this might work. I actually say in that other video that because I hadn't done this yet, and I knew I was going to do it after I'd filmed the content portion, I had no idea how it was going to turn out. I just knew in my head what I wanted to do. But off the bat, this is very interesting. So for those of you who are watching the Scorpion phase section, this reading specific to it, kicking things off with the Oracle deck, we have the presence of love will always cast out fear. Now, the rest of this goes along so well with this. So for those of you who feel that you are in the Scorpio phase, the Scorpion phase, again, I don't judge this. There are lots of people who will look at it and say, well, that's the lower level and everyone should be trying to move themselves up. Everyone should be trying to elevate their energy. And ideally, yes, in a perfect world, that is what we would be doing. But it's not quite that simple, and it's much more complicated than that. And I'm not going to go too far in depth with that in this particular reading. I said on the other video, if you want me to talk about that a little bit more in depth, I'm happy to do a video about it. You can just leave me comments in the comments below if you want me to talk more about it. But if you think about it from a very simple level, okay, let's say that someone in a lifetime developed a lot of karmic debt, and that karmic debt was around the fact that they mistreated someone like their partner, their spouse, right? They were very cruel and mean. They did things to their partner, someone that they should have loved, and they did those things throughout a lifetime and just built up a lot of karmic debt. I'm going to use a very simple example, okay? So when that soul then goes, life is over, the soul goes on, and that karmic debt is attached, there could be a purpose for that soul to go back and to live a life in which they are then the abused, neglected, mistreated partner of someone that they love, because that then gives them the exact experience of what they did. Okay? So it's almost like a situation in which you're saying, imagine walking a mile in someone else's shoes, right? The easiest way for us to learn what we've done that is potentially harmful to someone, right, is to experience it ourselves. And so for me, in terms of how I view spirituality and how I view karma and the world that we're in. Yes, ideally, at some point in our own spiritual evolution, people will no longer be building up that negative karma, the bad karma, because we will have learned the spiritual lessons and we all will have evolved and ascended. But until that process has happened, until we're all in a place where karmic debts have been restored and spiritual understanding has happened, then there might actually be a purpose for someone coming into this life, coming into this world, living a life in which most of what they are experiencing is lower vibrational energy. And in that particular situation, it actually doesn't make a lot of sense to say immediately to that person, well, you just need to raise your vibration. You need to get up into higher vibration, because they're actually working out a spiritual contract in order to better understand and embody within their own spirit an understanding of why what they did in a previous life, why what they did in a previous connection with someone was bad, was harmful, by experiencing it themselves. By you can even think about it if you want to get really complicated. Time is not linear the way that we experience it. Time is very complicated. And so it may well be possible for someone to come back and actually live the life of the person. I know that's a little bit like esoteric and that's a little bit out there, but we don't really know. We don't know how it all works. So I'm saying all this to say to you, basically, if you're listening to this particular portion, and I don't know if I'll go in depth with this much with the other phases, honestly, but if you either felt drawn to this or you listened to the video and you felt like you are existing within the Scorpion phase in terms of your own vibrational energy, I just want you to know, I need to get some water. I just need to let you guys know that there's no judgment for me on that. I personally don't look at the Scorpion phase as being worse than Eagle or Phoenix. I just see it as being lower vibrational energy, which means that most of the experiences that you're having in your life are probably ones that are painful, that are confusing, that make you sad. Your relationships probably suffer. You might find it hard to make connections. So those are just facts about a lower vibrational experience of humanity. But there's no judgment for me. So if you're listening to this, I just want you to know what I'm going to say to you here is just insight. There's no judgment. If you've identified yourself as being in this level, even though it's phase 1, I deliberately don't call them like low level Scorpion, right? It's just a phase. Okay, with all of that said, let's talk about the reading, okay? I wanted to say all that to you because the presence of love will always cast out fear. There's a lot of fear here in terms of energy, to be honest with you. The spiritual purpose with the Two of Cups coming out reversed here, what I got immediately from this card, honestly, was just distrust. Typically this card, the Two of Cups, when it's reversed, can represent breakups, relationships that didn't go well, a relationship that seemed almost spiritual but wasn't quite there. Often when the Two of Cups comes out reversed for me, that is how I identify karmic connections versus actual divine counterpart situations. And that's another place where I'm a little bit different than most people who are on YouTube, in that I don't necessarily think that a divine partnership such as a soulmate or a twin flame is necessarily better than a karmic connection in which the relationship can be fairly toxic. Now, the experience is obviously better, and ideally we would not keep getting into karmic types of relationships. But I see karmic relationships and soulmates and twin flames as all being the same thing, which are divine connections, spiritual connections, in which souls agree to act out certain things and interact with each other in certain ways to have an experience during a lifetime. Okay, so this felt very much to me like there's a lot of karmic connections that are designed to help you with your own spiritual purpose. So it's very possible for those of you who are listening to me that you have been in some fairly toxic and unhealthy connections, and those toxic and unhealthy connections have been confusing for you because even though they are very unhealthy from a human perspective, what our current society says is unhealthy, and painful for you, you also really did feel a connection with those other people. And it made it very challenging for you to be able to break out of them, to walk away from them. Some of you may currently be in a relationship which has some level of toxic aspect to it. I wanted to say abusive and I stepped away from it, but I'm just going to go there. I think some of you are actually actively involved in relationships that are either mentally abusive, emotionally abusive. For some of you, very well may be in physically abusive relationships. Now, by no means am I encouraging you to stay in those, okay? But what I am saying is that there likely feels like there is a very intense connection to that person, to that relationship, that makes it hard for you to figure out how to get yourself out of it. Now, there are some relationships that do have negative aspects to them, toxic aspects to them. It's actually getting hard for me to talk because this is going to be very heavy. And I'm fighting my brain in terms of what I'm being told to say, and I shouldn't do that. So I'm just going to be very honest, okay? There are some of you who find yourself in relationships that are very unhealthy, very unstable, make you very sad, make you very unsure. They're very scary. And the spiritual purpose of this is to help you get to a point where you learn to trust yourself, trust your ability to take care of yourself, trust your ability to be enough for yourself. For those of you who are listening to me and haven't clicked away, because I know this is getting deep, I just have to say here, next to this, the Soul's Lesson, you have the Lovers, which has come out reversed as well. And, this Lovers card is really just the major expression of the Two of Cups. And with both of these coming out side by side and both being reversed, I just sense that a lot of what you're experiencing has been very tumultuous, very painful relationships. And this doesn't necessarily just have to stop on the notion of a romantic relationship. Okay, that's very important for me to say. This could be toxic relationships with your parents, with your siblings, with friends, coworkers. Your life in general has likely been full of these types of connections. And as I was saying, you feel an awareness that these things are not healthy. You are able to understand that the emotional response you have to them is a negative one. But you also feel very drawn into these types of relationships. And there is a reason for that. You are trying to learn in this life that the way to alleviate that fear that you have about life, the fear that you have around abandonment, the fear that you have around being alone, the fear that exists within you that feels like something that you cannot control. You're trying to learn the lesson that the presence of love is what casts out that fear. But you're settling right now for companionship, even if that companionship is fairly toxic, even if that companionship doesn't nurture you or enrich your life or bring anything into, it doesn't bring anything in of value to you. Okay? So this is fairly heavy, but it's very important that you hear this, that the way to move yourself out of this, okay, and we're going to move into this, right, with the karmic ties, because you have the Chariot card coming out and it's upright. Okay, so when the Chariot card is upright, this represents discipline and self-control, having willpower, taking action in your life, being determined and disciplined, working your way towards a goal. Okay, so what you are trying to work out in this phase is an understanding that you have the ability to create the type of life that you want. You have the ability to protect yourself, keep yourself safe. You have the ability to choose what you do with your life and what you do with your time and how you share your life with other people. You get to choose who you love and who gets to have access to you in certain ways. And that's really the karmic energy that you're trying to work out here. And that's why you're being presented with all of these opportunities to choose relationships that don't benefit you, to choose relationships that don't improve your situation. to see if you will trust that if you really focus on true love, both of yourself and demanding that from other people, you take action to that and you stand strong within it, that's what's going to cast out these fears. And that's what will allow you to no longer have to have these types of interactions, and could allow these cards to flip so that they're upright, they're expressing upright. Now, it's interesting as I'm saying this because for your advice and guidance, you have the Seven of Pentacles, which has come out upright. Now, this is a great card because the Seven of Pentacles upright is about something that's sustainable, something that is, for the long term, it's going to yield results that are good for you. So this is good. The advice coming through is to understand that what you're going through, even though it's very often judged and condemned and shamed, and it's something that, so many people experience it. So many people experience toxic, unhealthy, abusive relationships. So many people experience that. But we don't talk about it openly because our society is so judgmental over it, and there's so much shame and stigma that's associated with it. Okay? But the advice and guidance coming through for you is that you will have success here. You will have results if you put the effort in of learning the lessons that these relationships and these connections and these experiences have been trying to teach you. Now, the evolutionary insight coming out here, you have the Two of Pentacles. It's also come out upright. This is very interesting because this card tends to speak to trying to juggle multiple priorities, needing to reprioritize your life or be adaptable in some way about your life. And I feel like this is really saying to you, you have to make the choice between using relationships that aren't for your good as a distraction from dealing with the things that you really need to deal with. You have to make a choice between this, right? You can either stay here with these relationships that aren't working out, that aren't going the way that you want them to, that aren't bringing anything into your life that other than pain and disappointment and more fear and anxiety and worry. Or you can take action in terms of figuring out how to be good and stable on your own by yourself. Now, if you choose this path, you're going to have success. If you choose this path, ultimately, you're still going to have success because within these painful relationships, within this toxic muck that's right here, there are lots of lessons. There are tons of things to learn. So it's almost like this is one path and this is another. This probably feels much better. This path, as you can see, would take you into the next phase. This is movement out of this phase. But like I said, there are some people who end up, this is what they need to experience in order to learn the lessons that they need to learn or pay off the karmic debt that they're bringing in from a past life. And only you know, this is so important for me to say, only you know which of these is best for you, because that is an answer that comes from your own soul. But I do have to caution you that sometimes we can think this is what we deserve. We can think that this is all we can have. We can think that this is all that we're worth. And that's not the place that you need to make this decision. Okay? And I hope that makes sense. If you feel like, I'm going to try to explain this, and I feel like there are going to be lots of questions and there might be lots of comments on this, okay? But feel free to leave them. I'm happy to explain myself. And again, I'm happy to do a video about this because I think that it's important. If you as an individual feel like, you know what, yeah, I've had some crazy stuff. I've had some weird relationships. I've had some really insane experiences, but I've learned so much about myself through them. And I also feel like I've helped the other person understand themselves. I just had a movie flashed in my head, and I don't know if any of you have ever seen it, but it's called Sweet November, and has, well, gosh, I blanked on her name. Charlize Theron is the main actor, and Keanu Reeves, I think, is the actor. But that character, the main character in that movie, flashed in my head. If you haven't seen the movie, check it out or read a synopsis of it, okay? But that's the type of energy of someone who, it's almost like a bittersweet type of thing where it's, yeah, these relationships are toxic, but that's what I feel like I'm supposed to do, right? That's a different vibe. That's a different energy from someone who says, well, this is all I'll manage to get, and I'm not lovable, so I have to put up with this, and no one's ever going to treat me better, and this is what I deserve. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. Some people will feel like they are supposed to stay here. Some people will absolutely feel like they're supposed to stay here. And again, I do not judge you if that's what you feel your soul is expressing. It's just going to be a much harder road, and it's going to be a lot of really challenging, difficult lessons. But again, the advice or guidance is you have to choose a path. You can't sort of like juggle between them. Okay? So you either stay here, hang out here, or you move into a different phase, and that's 100% up to you. So I'm going to clear away these cards. That was super heavy. I don't know if all of them are going to be that heavy or not. I'm actually really interested. I'm going to turn this one off, and we'll put up the eagle. I'm just going to shuffle this through because I want to give the cards opportunity with this oracle deck to come out again if they want to. Give this 2 cuts this time. One more. All right. The top card. I'm going to go with this deck here. That first reading. So if you guys are just joining me, I just realized some of you might have just jumped right to Eagle. If I seem a little bit flustered, it's because the Scorpion reading was actually very heavy. So I'm just working right now to sort of move that energy. If you were there for the Scorpion reading and you're watching Eagle as well, take a moment as well just for yourself, just to recenter yourself, shake off some of that energy. That was very intense. Very intense. Okay. I'm going to shuffle through one more time and then cut. We'll take the top 5 cards after the cut. Just saying goodbye to the energy of the previous reading, moving into the energy of the eagle. There we go. Okay. Spiritual purpose, soul's lesson, karmic ties, our advice and guidance, and the evolution insight. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn all these over, see what we have. It's kind of long. I'll read it to you guys and put it closer to the camera. Sun of Pentacles coming out reversed. 10 of Cups coming out reversed. 6 of Coins reversed. 3 of Wands reversed. Wow, so many reversals. And before I did this, you guys, I actually I went through and turned these cards every which way before even sitting down with them. So I'm just going to stick those up there. Okay, well, maybe these are all going to be a little bit heavy. So I'm just going to read this to you guys. So it says, I witness the darkness and call on the light with my prayer. Thank you, universe, for guiding me to perceive the sphere through the eyes of the teacher of love. Very similar, honestly, to Scorpio. But it is interesting because, you know, with Eagle, we are talking about vibrational energy, which has bounced up a little bit, vibrational energy, which has been raised. And so this card in particular speaks to being aware, witnessing the darkness, being aware that the darkness is an actual place, it's an actual thing, it's a choice. Existing in the darkness, existing in that lower vibrational energy is a choice that we have available to us. We can choose to raise that energy up. We can choose to bounce it up and have it be a little bit more elevated, raise that vibrational frequency. And when we do that, when we raise our own vibrational energy, the things that start to come into our lives, the other people that are responding to us, match in that frequency. Okay? So let's talk about this. So the Sun of Pentacles represents the Knight of Pentacles. It's come out reversed here. Spiritual purpose with the Knight of Pentacles, it's interesting because, you know, one of the things that the Knight of Pentacles can represent is the notion of perfectionism when it's reversed. But it's also just being in that place of feeling stuck and bored, right? I think what's very interesting for those of you who have made the choice just to listen to Eagle for whatever reason, you know, Eagle phase, a lot of times, and I say this in the video where I talk about the 3 phases of evolution for Scorpio, a lot of times what pushes people out of the Scorpion level, the Scorpion phase, and gets them to start bubbling up a little bit with their vibrational energy is that feeling of getting bored or feeling stuck. It's almost like you become fed up with the negative. You've become fed up with the pain, fed up with the sadness, and you decide to start making some adjustments and some changes. So for many of you, you might be in that place where that's where you're at energetically. is just feeling like you need to start making some changes. You need to start making adjustments because you're getting tired of life always feeling heavy. You're tired of life always feeling sad. Now, going back to this, there's a prayer here. So it says, I witness the darkness and call on the light with my prayer. And this is the prayer. And for some of you, you might actually want to write this down. So I'll read it kind of slow just in case you want to write it down or type it out on your phone. But it says, thank you, universe, for guiding me to perceive this fear through the eyes of the teacher of love. Okay? Whatever fear you do have, for those of you who are listening to the Eagle reading, if you can get to a space internally where you realize that the fears that you have, the fears that are haunting you, the fears that are heavily on your mind, the fears that you are trying to work your way through, if you can begin to perceive those fears as being lessons, being insight into things that you need to learn and understand, and then you can perceive those fears through the eyes of the teacher of love. So you can look at a fear and you can say, okay, well, why am I scared of that situation? Find out what the answer is. Okay, why is that my response to that thing? So let's say, for example, you have a fear of abandonment. Okay, and so you ask yourself, well, why am I scared of abandonment? And you say, well, I just don't want to lose somebody that I care about. Keep going deeper with it. Okay, well, you don't want to lose someone that you care about. Why do you think that is? Well, because it hurts if you lose someone that you care about. How do you know that it hurts when you lose someone you care about? Well, because when I was a kid, my dad left or my mom died. Right? There's the true thing. Right? We can always track things back until we find what is normally referred to as a core wound. And when you can find and uncover that core wound inside of you, then that's where you can really start to do some learning, right? The teacher of love is really your own spirit trying to help you understand yourself and heal and deal with traumas. I want to talk a little bit about the soul lesson. Again, you have the Ten of Cups and it's come out reversed here. Now, the Ten of Cups, when it's reversed, traditionally represents struggling relationships. But what's very interesting is there's another aspect to this, which is the notion of just being disconnected, being a bit disconnected. I feel like this, along with this Six of Pentacles, which has come out reversed, which is the karmic ties, this tells a very interesting story, I think. So karmic ties, to me, in terms of this reading, it represents what you, the individual, have tied to you karmically, what you brought into this life karmically. Okay, and the Six of Pentacles represents, when it's reversed, unpaid debts or one-sided charity, something that someone who takes more than they give. So it's very possible here with these two cards, the lesson of your soul representing struggling relationships and a place where you're disconnected, and the karmic energy coming in here is around taking more than you give. It's very possible that what a lot of you are working out in terms of your own spiritual evolution is karma around not valuing relationships. And I'm not saying that's true to you today. In fact, it might very well be the opposite for you today. You might be someone today in this life, in this body, in this incarnation of who you are right now. You might actually very much value relationships and very much want to have healthy relationships. Okay, but what's coming in here in terms of the soul, the lesson your soul wishes to learn, and the karmic energy that you're trying to clear, this would represent someone that in the past potentially didn't value connections, didn't honor commitments, didn't make connections, period, or was someone that was in relationships and in connections solely for what they could get out of them and didn't actually put in a lot of emotional investment. Now, again, I'm not saying that's who you are today. I'm saying this is what insight is here in terms of why you might be in the eagle phase of evolution, because you're still working on this. You're still working on this energy. Okay. Advice or guidance here. This is very interesting. You have the Three of Wands, which has come out reversed. Now, the Three of Wands reversed represents typically playing small, keeping things small, not having foresight. It could represent delays. I actually feel like this is about playing small. And it's very interesting because over here you have this Nine of Wands, um, which is also reversed. All of these reversals is so interesting to me. Um, So I'm just going to be really honest. I'm super curious to hear what you guys think about these readings. I want to hear your feedback on it because this feels very heavy to me. I'm just going to be honest. They feel very heavy. But I think sometimes that's good. I think sometimes that's what we need, is we need something that's going to really push us and make us think and make us connect. But um, I'm looking at these two cards together here in terms of the evolution, insight, and advice and guidance. And this card in particular, the Nine of Wands, when it's reversed, it represents a place where we feel overwhelmed and we're struggling and we're defensive and we're paranoid. And I feel like for a lot of you listening to me, this is energy that you understand. I feel like you spend a lot of your time in that energy of really feeling overwhelmed and defensive and paranoid and worried and not quite knowing how to make life feel stable, not quite knowing how to make things feel okay. And the advice coming in here is to simplify things as much as you can. Very often we look at people who live simple lives or who have lives that aren't, extravagant or elaborate or, whatever, right? We look at those people and we think, oh, that's so sad. Like they don't have a big life. But this is actually saying to you, it's fine to have a simple life. It's fine to have a smaller life because that helps you, right? It helps you to not be as pressured, to not be as paranoid, to not be as worried, to not have to struggle as much to keep up. And it also addresses this because if you're keeping your life simple, then you're not going to have to manipulate people to get things that you need in order to survive. You're not going to have to make connections that aren't connections that you really want just because you need that other person there to pay the bills. I just felt a big energy shift for some of you with that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. Keeping your life simple, keeping things small, keeping things inexpensive. There's nothing wrong with that. Having that type of life, there's nothing wrong with it. What I love about the younger generation, I don't have a lot of younger viewers. I can see the demographics. So my viewers are 25 to 65 typically. But what I love about people who are late teens, early 20s is that, if you haven't explored the, van life community on YouTube, check it out. And it's not just younger people that do it. There are people of all ages that do it. But the younger generation, late teens, early 20s, they don't look at someone who says, well, I'm going to live in a van and travel around. They think, okay, well, that's awesome. Yeah, I have friends that are doing that. I might do that for a year. There's no judgment in it. Whereas, older generations think about, the person who lives in the van by the river as being this like failure, this drop out of society, right? So what I'm saying here is that keeping a simple life, having a simple life, enables you to feel like you can be on your own without having to be super stressed and worried about it. And that is a perfectly fine decision to make about your own life. It's your life. But this is the main energy shift that I felt when I made that point earlier, is that the advice coming through is to simplify things because it's going to allow you to not be triggered into paranoia and worry and overwhelm and feeling like life is too much and life is a struggle and everything is panic energy. Because that's what I think in the past potentially led you to make decisions, whether this is in your past in this life or your past in terms of past lives and things that you're dealing with in terms of that, if you believe in that. But for sure, in the past, in some sense, you made decisions to get into relationships or to, I do feel for some of you like you played that you cared more than you actually did about someone, just in order to be able to, have them help you, to have them, keep life feeling like it was stable. Okay, and the advice is just to simplify that as much as possible. Simplify your life as much as possible so you don't have to repeat those things and you can actually be on your own. Okay, that was also very heavy. We're going to move into the Phoenix. I'm going to turn Eagle off here and put Phoenix up. We'll be using my Rider-Waite deck for this. I'm just going to set it here. I am going to give this deck a shuffle or two. Those are going to go back together. Do one more shuffle. Okay. Phoenix level people, if you are just joining me here, if you feel like you are at Phoenix phase, this is all you've watched. I've done 2 readings already before getting to you guys. They have been very heavy. So we're going to move into your reading now. I just want to let you know I'm going to spend a little bit of time just clearing my own energy. For those of you, if you watched either the Scorpion or Eagle, or if you've watched both and now you're in Phoenix, please take a moment as well just to recenter yourself, clear your energy, focus on your own breathing. I am going to just show you guys here. I'm going to take these cards. I'm going to turn a section, turn these, just because in the last reading there were so many reversals. I just want to show you I am actually changing the direction that these cards are pointing here. Put them through. I'm going to shuffle one more time and then do 2 cuts. I feel like we'll be ready to go. Okay. One more cut, whichever cards end up on top. I'm going to take the top 5 cards. There we go. We have our spiritual purpose. We have our soul's lesson. Karmic tie. Advice and guidance. And evolution insight. Okay, I'm going to turn all these over. This is insane. Okay. Each of the cards, if you've watched all 3 of these, you're aware. If you've just jumped into Phoenix, the other 2 readings, there's a theme here. So this card says, I recognize that I've chosen fear and I choose again, I choose love. The other 2 spreads also had cards that came out of this Oracle deck that talked about fear and love. Okay, so this is very interesting for me as a reader. This is something I've never done this type of thing before. I'm doing this based on a video that I did. I mentioned that up at the top. Seeing how this is playing out and seeing 3 cards come out for each of the 3 phases that are basically evolutionary expressions of the same concept, right? Like this is saying, I recognize that I chose fear. That is the Phoenix expression. But what's interesting is Scorpion, I wish I could remember them exactly now, but Scorpion and Eagle both had cards that came out that spoke about fear and love. It's very interesting. If you want to just go back, if you didn't watch them, if you want to go back and just watch the beginning of each of those, you'll see what I'm talking about. But for those of you who did watch all 3, this is very interesting, okay? And, I almost wanted to try to dig them out, but I can't remember what they were, and I'd have to search. But, yeah, like each of those 3, if someone doesn't mind, if someone's willing in the comments, if you did watch all 3 of these, if someone's willing in the comments just to go and put what the card said for Scorpion, Eagle, and Phoenix, this particular card from the Oracle deck, I'll pin that comment. If I see someone do it, I'll pin that comment to the top, because I think that could be very interesting just to jump in and have a conversation in the comments about that. And I'm happy to join in with that as well. Okay, so I'm going to flip the rest of these cards over. That just, woo. Okay, you guys are going to be heavy too. This is, it's Scorpios. I should just know Scorpios are going to be very, very heavy. Wow. Okay, well, let's talk about this. Okay, spiritual purpose here. You have the 10 of Swords. It has come out reversed here, and the 10 of Swords, whether it's upright or reversed, it's speaking to a lot of pain. It's speaking to someone who has gone through a lot of pain. When it is reversed, it does at least have the focus of someone who's recovering from it, who it's almost like the swords are falling out, right? But it's still, the swords got put in there to begin with. For those of you listening to me, you've gone through some stuff. You've had your bucket is full when it comes to painful experiences and fearful experiences. I do sense a lot of fear, honestly. Um, but it's very interesting because here we are in the Phoenix phase, and this does represent someone who is, the spiritual purpose was to have all of that experience and to still be able to come out on top, to have all those experiences and still be able to uh, ultimately close out those cycles. So this is actually very beautiful, and it does fit with the Scorpion, with the Phoenix phase of Scorpio. Um, this card just keeps jumping out at me because this is someone who says, you know what, I chose this. I made decisions. I made choices along the way. I'm the one that brought this pain into my life. I'm going to be the one that figures out how to heal it. And that is that Phoenix expression. That is that higher vibrational energy of Scorpio, where they are not in a place of being a victim anymore. They're realizing that they are in control. Now, the soul's lesson here, this is very interesting to me. You have the Knight of Wands coming out reversed as the soul's lesson. Now, in terms of the energy of the Knight of Wands, the energy of that is hasty, scattered energy, and it can represent delays and frustration. But the Knight of Wands is, when it's upright, represents a very passionate, inspired energy, an adventurous type of energy. And when it's reversed, it can represent that same type of energy, but specific to a project or a focus. Okay, so it would be work or a project or some sort of focus of your energy around something that you are very passionate and inspired by. Okay, I think that is how I'm going to interpret this, because to make sense of a soul's lesson, it would have to be that expression of this card, right? Your soul's lesson is not to learn how to be like more hasty and scattered. Like that's pretty much default of a soul until we learn what to do with it, right? So I think that, especially with this being the Phoenix reading, what's coming through here is your soul wants to be able to be engaged in this life. You feel a calling towards doing something that can help other people, benefit other people, make other people's lives better. And you are choosing love now. You've gone through this pain. You're able to help other people. Now, what's very interesting about karmic ties, when I say karmic ties, this is the karma that you've brought into this life with you. It's the karma that's tied to you as a soul. You have the Five of Cups. Another Five of Cups is that crying over spilled milk, right? But look at this, guys. I'm going to turn this overlay off just for a moment. Look at this. I recognize that I've chosen fear. I choose again. I choose love. This is exactly what this card talks about, right? You can focus on the stuff you've lost, or you can focus on the stuff that you still have. Very interesting. I feel like you have historically, either in this life or over multiple lives, however you want to look at it, you've focused on the things that you didn't get. You've focused on the things that you lost. You focused on the things that you couldn't have. You've focused on the fear, and you have not focused on the potential. You've not focused on the things that you did get. You've not focused on the successes that you've had. You've not focused on love. You're trying to work through that in this life. That is the main goal of you being in the Phoenix phase, of having that higher vibrational energy, is to turn yourself around and choose love. Now, advice and guidance coming out here, you have the Ten of Pentacles coming out reversed. This is a very interesting card to come out in terms of advice or guidance, and I'm gonna be very straightforward with it, I feel, because the Ten of Pentacles, when it's reversed, really represents a place in which we're focused in on the dark side of wealth, the dark side of success, meaning we're obsessed with money, we're workaholics, we're sacrificing relationships and connections in order to focus on our career, right? It's very interesting because I have to say, for some of you, that is actually the advice. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, and it sounds like an odd thing for a tarot reader to say, but if I just sort of look at this, especially with this soul's lesson being this like project or focus of your energy around something about which you're very passionate, I feel like this is saying the advice is to really put your energy into this. Even if it comes at the sacrifice of relationship for a while, of being able to have relationships or connections. It's almost like you need to throw yourself 100% into whatever this project is. You need to put all of your focus on it, because ultimately you're going to help so many people through this work and clear so much of this karma and heal so much of this pain, that by doing that and really working through all of this stuff that you have to deal with, working through that energy through work, it feels like an actual profession, right? A career. Focusing on that and really putting in the effort on it for a period of time, it actually does allow you to get to a place with this Four of Wands energy. And the Four of Wands represents something that's very stable, has a solid foundation. There's lots of joy and happiness here, and the Four of Wands often can represent a stable type of relationship, a marriage. There's a association with like a homecoming, a home being made. Maybe you look at the card itself. I'll leave the overlay on, but you can see these two people, right? With the celebration going on behind them. It feels very much like what I would say here is the way that you're going to wrap this up, because if you're in the Phoenix level, Phoenix phase, you've raised your energy, you have a higher vibrational energy. And this is how you really sever any of those ties to this old pain, by choosing love. And I feel like the first thing you need to love is whatever this calling is, whatever this career is, whatever this thing is that you want to put your efforts and energy into, do that. Do it unapologetically, 100%, but be a workaholic, be obsessed with it for a period of time. You'll know when the time is right. You'll feel it. You'll feel a shift. You'll feel these swords fall out, and you'll know that you've done this work. You've dealt with this karma. And that leads you naturally into something that could be very interesting. At one level, you just realize that you're fine on your own, you're stable on your own, you've built a foundation of your own, you're happy, you have joy and success in your life. On another possibility, this sets you up to be able to meet someone who is a good match for you, the stable, successful, accomplished version of you, right? That's the you that comes out of this and then is set up to meet someone that is on that same vibrational energy, which would also be awesome. Okay? So this was actually really good. This didn't feel as heavy as the others to me, and that makes sense because this is a higher vibrational energy. I do feel for those of you who watched this, you might just be questioning, should I just focus fully on my career? Should I just give up on, love? Yeah, you should for a while. That's actually what the cards are saying. And I think that that's what you already knew. That's what you felt internally. But you just also felt like a moral obligation or some sort of, sense that I should want both. I should, it's not good to sacrifice everything to focus on your career. Well, yeah, if that's all you're going to do for the rest of your life, no, that's not good. You need to have a mix. But right now, you're being called to really dive heavily into your career. You're being called to really heavily dive into this work because it's needed not only by other people need you, but you need this in order to heal this because you're working this out. Okay? So I'm going to clear these cards. Guys, my energy is pretty tapped. I'm not going to lie. This was way more intense and way more... this was a lot more than what I was expecting. I'm going to talk to you guys for just a moment. I can't resist. I want to try to find those other two cards that came out. So I'm not going to get back on the main camera and talk to you, but I am going to talk to you for a little bit because I just want to find those cards. That one was for Eagle. Let me see if I can find the Scorpion one. So guys, let me know in the comments what you thought about this. Okay, this was something that was very different, and I was not expecting it to be as intense and heavy as it was. But I'm glad that it was because I feel like that's what needed to be heard, and those were the messages that needed to come through. But man, this was really heavy. I don't know that I would want to do something this heavy again. Was it that one? I think it was. I believe these are the 3 cards, guys. I develop a bit of amnesia after I do these readings. But I believe this was the card that came out for Scorpion. The presence of love will always cast out fear. And then for Eagle, I witness the darkness and call upon the light when prayer. Thank you, universe, for guiding me to perceive this fear through the eyes of the teacher of love. Love, fear, fear, love. And then I recognize that I've chosen fear and I choose again. I choose love. These 3 cards may very well be the thumbnail for this particular reading because, wow, guys, that was just beautiful for me as a reader to see that coming out so clearly and seeing 3 expressions of the same basic concept coming through. So again, if someone wants to just capture these and put them in the comments, I will be reading through the comments, and if I see someone that took the time to do that, I will pin that comment to the top just so it stays on the top of this video. But for sure, go into the comments and let me know what you guys thought and whether you liked this. And again, if you haven't seen the actual video about Scorpio evolution that this reading accompanies, that inspired this reading, I'll throw it up here on the screen so you can see it. And I'll give you some other video on the other side that I'll just let YouTube recommend something to you so that you can check that out or check out another video. I love you guys so much. For those of you who did watch both videos, thank you for the support. I definitely want to hear from you and see what you think about it. And just to thank you as well for letting me do things a little bit differently and try new things and push myself to be a little bit more creative. I appreciate it so much, and I do believe that it makes me better. And it makes me able to give you much better insight and much better guidance, being able to do things in a more creative way and to push myself than just trying to replicate video after video after video, week after week, because that gets very old. It gets very old, and it's not necessarily what I'm here to do. I'm here to help people learn and understand and grow. And so I just want to say thank you to those of you who are supportive of that and who are sticking with the channel and hanging out with me. So again, thank you so much. I love you. Many blessings to you. I'm so excited to hear what you guys think about this.